Yay! Hi,
Hello.
Lily. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Let me turn up the volume real quick. Hey, I'm so excited we're doing this.
Me
Okay.
too.
Well, today I have Lily here. We met this past weekend at our mastermind, and um, you guys will enjoy her calm energy that she will bring to this live video. But today we have some things planned out because at our mastermind we talked a lot about areas of how we can continue to show up, and Lily will be here to kind of talk more extensively about allowing yourself to sit in discomfort and how you can do that. So, how you can do that compassionately. And then she'll definitely wrap up with getting us regrounded and reconnected with some breath work. And then I would love to hear about your rituals that you create in the morning.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
I will turn it over to you. I would love for you to introduce yourself first.
Mhm. Yeah, so I'm Lily Nicole. It's nice to meet everyone. I
You're a
love,
little quiet, Lily.
I'm quiet.
Yeah,
Let me see if I put my headphones in, if that helps.
perfect. Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Is this your first time doing a live, Lily? On
No.
Instagram? Okay, cool. On Instagram? No, you because
Yeah.
you connected with your Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, I usually do Facebook Lives more often just because they
Yeah.
last forever.
Yeah.
But no, it's not my first time. Let's see.
Hi, Priscilla.
Let's see. Okay, how is that volume? Is it
That's
better?
a little better.
A little better.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so funny because I haven't been having this problem before. Hopefully it keeps getting better. Anyone in the comments, let me know if you can't hear me, and I will just like yell, "No one is here," so I can talk louder.
Hi, April.
Yeah, so I am Lily Nicole. I'm a coach. I have struggled with what to call myself because it's so like all encompassing. I do a lot of inner child work and a lot of inner child healing with my clients, which is pretty similar to, subconscious mind work. Um, I like to think of the inner child and the subconscious mind as the same, as pretty similar. Um, and here, I'm going to take this out and just talk into this for a minute because I could hear myself echoing. So I think of the subconscious mind and inner child as pretty similar. It's really just kind of personifying the subconscious mind when we talk to our inner child. And so that's the work that I do with people, and it covers all sorts of areas. And right now, in this time that we're in, there's a lot of fear coming up, there's a lot of anxiety coming up, just a lot of emotions in general. And I think that the natural reactions are either to feed all the way into it and go into this panic mode of, oh my gosh, I don't know what the heck is going on. I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to react. And this panic. And then there's also the desire for a lot of people to bypass those feelings and to ignore those feelings and to just say, love and light and everything is okay and, all of that. Whereas that immediate reframing is sometimes more harmful than, just the panic, or just equally as harmful because we're not actually feeling the feelings that we need to feel. And it's not to say that we need to acknowledge the panic and sit in it and stay in it forever. It's just that there are other ways to, handle things and do things. So I think that that's where a lot of my work is coming in right now and over these next few days, is allowing people the space to feel what they're feeling, acknowledge what they're feeling, understand that there are reasons that you may feel differently than someone else does because of your past experiences, or who you are, or all of those things.
Yes,
Yeah.
awesome. And I think one thing that you touch really beautifully on is that whole, like, that quick to reframe, like almost that pressure for us to be like, I can't feel this, or I shouldn't feel this. This is too negative, this is too judgmental, whatever it may be. But it kind of doesn't really address maybe some of the deeper rooted feelings. So I'd love for you to maybe provide us with an example and how we can
Mm-hmm.
maybe tap into that.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that a lot of what I usually call it like there are people who just hashtag positive vibes only all over everything, right? It's like, okay, I have a negative thought and oh my gosh, no, I can't think that. I have to reframe because we read, You Are a Badass, or we read one personal development book. That's always my example because it was my first one. And then we're just trying to positive think. And there is so much positivity in that, right? There's so much benefit to that. But at the same time, when we're not allowing these feelings to really make their way through our body and travel through our body, we're not getting rid of negativity by piling positivity on top of it. We're shoving negativity down so it can like fester and mold. And in my opinion, I just imagine it like growing and getting worse down there underneath all of these flowers, right? It's kind of like our friend Jennifer at the mastermind. She said it in like the most beautiful way. She's like, you can't spray like put potpourri on top of like poop and expect things to be better. It's you want to allow the negativity to move through your body. And in order for that to move through, it has to be felt, right? And one of the ways that I like to explain that I think makes it pretty clear is it's like if you had a kidney stone in your body, it's something in you that you don't want in there, right? That doesn't belong. In order for it to come out, it's going to hurt, right? Or it's not going to feel good. It's not going to be something that you're like desiring. You're like, ooh, I can't wait to feel this come out, right? But once it's out, you're free of it. So it's the same thing with our emotions and with fear and with anything of that nature. It's when we can allow ourselves to feel it and process it and move it through our bodies, then it has the chance to go, right? When it gets that acknowledgement and that love from us, because our emotions are just signals, they're just trying to tell us something. So if we point them out as good or bad or this or that or the other without actually feeling through them, like there's a purpose for them. They're not just pointless. And I think that's really important to understand too.
Yeah, I love that. Would you mind sharing, instead of maybe using words good or bad regarding emotional states, is there anything that people could replace good or bad with?
Mm-hmm. Oh, hi, Jenna. I know Jenna. Yeah. So really just not putting any sort of, it's not good or bad. Maybe it feels good or it feels not so good, right? So
Mm,
just recognizing that you are not judging the actual emotion, you're just judging how the emotion feels inside of your
feels.
body. That's okay, right? Because, I mean, while sadness is good and helpful, it doesn't feel good, right?
Hmm.
It's something that we sometimes need in order to process things. So we're not labeling what the actual emotion is. We're just kind of defining how it feels within us, just to be aware of that. And also just kind of taking a step back and being an observer of these things. So rather than, ooh, I feel sad and this is bad, it's, ooh, I feel sad. This is interesting. What does this mean, right? Or how can I allow this to continue moving through me? So not trying to judge everything and put a label on every single thing that comes through.
Yeah, I love that. I think more like how you described it, kind of stepping outside of maybe our experience and having almost like a bird's eye view and outside of perspective, and then leaning into
Mm-hmm.
curiosity. I think that's beautiful, versus taking
Definitely.
ownership and feeling like that weight and that heaviness. Um, when you say kind of like have it move through your body, could you maybe explain that a little bit more for people? And if you have any tips on how someone could move these feelings of fear or panic so that it doesn't either sit in pockets of their body, and allows them to kind of release it.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting because like the work that you do, right? It's all about things that are just kind of sitting in our bodies and however we move it through is good enough, right? So everyone needs to choose what they like to do. So when I say move it through your body, it's really just like you said about not letting it sit there, not letting it stay and try to get our attention. And since I do a lot of inner child work, I like to make this comparison to children, right? Before I started my coaching business, I was a kindergarten teacher. So I just imagine those kids, if I'm like in the back of the room talking to another teacher, let's say, and they want my attention, whew, they are going to get it no matter what they have to do, right? And it's, you think like little kids with their moms on the phone, and they're like, mom, mom. And then she's not paying attention. It's like, mom, they start
Yeah.
smacking her, right? So that's what our emotions are doing because a lot of our emotions, especially fear, anxiety, just different things that come up very often for us are typically from our inner child, right? And experiences that we've had as children. So there's a little version of you inside of you, like running the show. And when she's not getting attention, when you're ignoring her to hashtag positive vibes only all over your life, she's like, excuse me. And that's why people who try to get into this work, right, they still have this like anxiety in the back of their mind and they're pushing it away, pushing it away. Like I can feel that energy so strongly. And all that we would need to do is acknowledge the negative feeling, right? The anxiety, the fear. So right now we're in this heightened state of anxiety and fear just as a collective, as like an entire globe, which is like mind blowing that we're all in the same situation. It's so interesting to me. But all of our inner children are like, excuse me, like I am scared and I need you to pay attention to me. And when we're ignoring that, we're doing our bodies and our minds and our souls and all of it a disservice when we could be observing it and seeing what needs to be brought to attention in our world, right? Because I do believe that there's a lot out there right now and we could use this, for good. Again, not really labeling anything, but in order to grow, right? And to learn things about ourselves. So, one thing that I like to do to move things through your body, and everyone, we can do this together right now. I did this at the mastermind with the woman there, and it's really just like a quick, like 30-second exercise. But it involves you just like right now, just kind of closing your eyes, and whatever feeling and emotion has been coming up for you since the start of this, or that you're feeling right now that maybe you've been trying to ignore or push away, if there's a feeling of anxiety or worry or fear, you don't even have to name the emotion, just feel it. And I want you to feel where you feel that emotion in your body. For a lot of us, it might be in our bellies or in our chests. Some people in your head, near your womb area. Could be anywhere. And as you feel this emotion in your body, I want you to let the emotion build. And fully feel that feeling of anxiety or fear. And then I want you to tune in and ask yourself, what version of me is in that feeling and needs my attention? So you may notice it's a teenage version of you, a childhood version of you, 3-year-old you, 7-year-old you. And if you feel like you don't know, just ask your unconscious mind, what version of me is in this feeling asking for my attention? And while you're letting her feel that feeling, I want you to ask yourself now, what does she need to hear from me now? What does that version of me need to hear? And as you're allowing those answers to come through, I want you to say those things to her. And I want you to say, I love you. You are loved. You are worthy. I am taking care of you. And you can take a really deep cleansing breath and exhale it out. And then you can open your eyes and just start to notice what happened to that feeling inside of you, right? And whether it went down and dissipated or it didn't, right? We're not here to judge that. I know for me, it brings a feeling of calm over me once I start to acknowledge the actual feeling. Because so often, what we're doing, especially right now, is we're feeling all this anxiety. And then we're trying to be, this positive light for other people, or, keep everything together, or not worry too much. And so we're ignoring it and shoving it down. But then our, inner child or our inner little person, it's like, excuse me, I'm still here. So when we give her what she needs, because truly all of our emotions are just signals, right? They're all just things that we need to address and things that we may need to hear. And so if your inner child needs to hear, you are loved, I'm here to take care of you, she's not hearing that because we're not taking a second to touch back in with her. And that's where things like, I mean, we'll get into this in a bit, but like meditation and journaling and all of that comes in, because you really get to get more in touch with yourself and in tune with yourself and see what it is that you actually need in order to respond to the signal that your body's giving you through that emotion.
So what about the people that, struggle with even identifying like and answering the question, what do I need?
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like oftentimes it's like, oh, what do you feel like you need? How are you feeling? And there's some people that are like, I don't know. I don't know what she needs, right? And there's like almost like this very large gap of being able to identify that. What are your thoughts on that?
Right. I mean, I think that that's pretty normal. First of
Yeah.
all, for
Yeah.
anyone listening, it's normal, especially if you haven't done this work before. You might have just been closing your eyes and been like, why is this girl asking me like if there's a little kid in my tummy? Like, this is weird, right? And like, it seems weird. So I would say, like, first of all, give yourself grace. That's always my number one advice when you're getting into this work. Like, if you're kind of like looking around, like, what the heck is going on? I don't really understand this. Do your best, right? The more that your body and your mind and your subconscious gets used to doing this type of work, the easier it will become for you to understand it, right? So if right now you're in a position where you're saying, I don't I don't get it, right? Like, I don't know what she needs to hear. You might not even know what version of you was in that feeling, right? That's okay. Know that your unconscious mind is doing the work for you, first of all, okay? It's hearing what I'm saying and it's applying all of those messages and lessons. If you were able to kind of like think of who might be in there right now, who might need your attention, but you're like, I don't know what she needs to hear. I don't know what I need to hear to feel safe. That's okay as well. I have a few suggestions here. Number one is we always need to hear you are worthy, you are loved, right?
Mine is
That's
like you're
really the main.
okay, right? It's like that
Right.
you're
Yeah. Like,
okay.
you're
Yeah.
okay. You're safe, right? I am keeping you safe, because that's what we're looking for: love, safety,
Safety. Mm-hmm.
worthiness, right? To be accepted.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think it really does kind of in the end all come back to that feeling of safety, because being
For
loved
sure.
makes us feel safe, right? Being worthy makes us feel safe because we're going to be accepted, which then makes us feel safe. So,
Right.
we're looking for that feeling of safety. And especially right now, there's all this uncertainty. So, just saying to yourself, you know, and I even prefer I love you over you are loved. Or
Why?
because I think that that makes it more personalized. It's like, I've got me, right? Like, as a we want that connection, and knowing that we can build that connection with ourselves is really important, because even when it's just us, like, I still know, oh my gosh, I love me, right? I love you, whoever who is in there.
And you
And
know what's
that
really
it's
fascinating is the
yeah.
slight change in language. Like, I don't know how many of, us actually say that to ourselves. And so when you're like rehearsing that or having someone coach you and guide you through that, also acknowledge those feelings of potential discomfort, right? Like,
Hmm.
my God, like I've never said that to myself before. Like, where is it? Like, you coached us through, like, where do you feel that in your body? Because those are very telling points as well.
That's so true. Like, if that feels weird, that's something to take a look at, right? That's
Yeah,
something to
totally.
observe, like, right? And it's like the I love you versus you are loved is putting it on the responsibility onto you to love yourself, rather than, even if you are loved, you mean it in like a universal way, like God loves me, the universe loves me, whoever loves me, right? It's still putting it outside of yourself. And when we can ground back into us, that's where we're going to find,
Mm-hmm.
ultimate safety. Because if we can always feel safe with ourselves, and we're always with ourselves, and we're always safe, and there's always that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, but then the other
Yeah.
way that I had of, like, if you had trouble with that exercise and with knowing what to say to yourself, rather than being like, okay, she's in my belly right now, this is a little bit weird, just pull out the vision that you have of yourself as a child. So if you close your eyes, and we can all do this together anyway, because it's helpful even if the other exercise did work for you, right? Close your eyes again, you take a deep breath, and you are imagining the 7 or 10-year-old version of you. Get a picture of her in your mind, and just imagine that she's standing there in front of you. And she's looking back at you. And imagine that she's feeling those things that you were feeling. So, anxiety or fear or worry. If she was standing in front of you right now, what would you tell her? And then sometimes we want to visualize ourselves hugging her and really feel that. You can feel that energy pass through, your heart to hers. And just speak to her as if she were a child in front of you right now. And what does she need to hear in order to feel safe? And so that is something that you can do at any time, right? You can go back. I think that it's so powerful to have conversations, full on conversations with your inner child. There are a lot of actually like free YouTube meditations. If you just search like guided inner child meditation, you'll be walked through. There's like 20 or 30-minute ones where they like walk you through it. And it's like meet your inner child, and you like meet her in like a garden or something, right? It's very emotional. But like after you do that a few times and you kind of get yourself used to it, a lot of times I will, if I'm going through something or even if I'm not, I'm just like laying in bed and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go talk to little Lily right now. And we have like little chats, And there's pieces of us like in our bodies where we're holding it, right? Different traumas maybe that we've experienced, different just situations in our lives that we're still holding on to and that we're still operating from. Because if you think about it, the way that we are making decisions is, so we have these beliefs, right? And the beliefs that we have dictate how we make decisions in our life and how we show up in our life. But at one point in time, since there's not one ultimate belief about anything, right? That's why we all disagree on a million things, is because at one point in time we made a decision to believe something. So like one very broad example is like, the belief that money's hard, money makes people fight, money is bad. So we grow up making these decisions, making that makes making money difficult. We usually think of that as a limiting belief, right? And it is, right? Like money is difficult, but where did that belief come from? Oh, when you were 6 and mom and dad were like screaming at each other because they couldn't pay the bills, and you thought in your head like, oh my gosh, money does this to people, money is bad, I'm making the decision to believe that money is bad from here on out. Whereas someone else was like flying to Paris and doing all of these cool things, and dad was like, here's money, honey, it's so great. Decision, money is great,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then
Mm-hmm.
they live their life believing that. So there's little versions of us inside who have made those decisions. And sometimes we logically know as an adult that that's not the truth anymore, but there's still that belief that's been built into us. So when we can open up, as silly as it might sound, right? I don't know how woo woo all of you guys are on here listening to this, but as silly as it might sound, opening up conversation between yourself and your inner child, things can shift and change in your belief system and in how you operate just by having that like open channel of communication. And you'll be able to get signals from her as she's trying to talk to you or tell you what's wrong more easily the more that you connect.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I think a lot of us can look back at some sort of version of our younger self being like that one time when I was like in high school or in grade school, and it's like so traumatic, but it is like imprinted in our brains so clearly. We can remember like what time of day, what we were wearing, who we were talking to. Like it's like incredible what types of information our brain interprets and then holds on to, and other stuff that just go through and then come out. So this is, I think, just valuable, like you said, just open up that conversation. I always talk about opening up the conversation with her in present sense, but it's like a lot of the trauma has happened prior to where we are today. So it's like so valuable to look back at like, what is it, that one experience or handful of experiences where you can really bring yourself back to? And like you mentioned, what is the discomfort? What does that feel like?
Right. Yeah. And that's such a good point, too. It's like if it is a specific memory that you have that's kind of like, oh gosh, I know that that probably has like messed me up or like brought things into, my current reality. You can go back to that time, and it's one thing where you can go back to that time and you can sit and like the little, like be looking through your own eyes in that moment. But you can't change, the past in that way. So we were kind of talking about this at our mastermind weekend. A lot of times we'll go back and relive memories because we're trying to make a different decision, which is not
Right.
possible. So what you can do rather than go back and relive it is you can imagine yourself and visualize yourself going back to that moment as you are now, being kind of like an extra person in the room where the situation happened, and then taking your inner child aside and comforting her, right? Giving her what she needs to hear, whether it's like the decisions that you made were okay, right? Permission to make the
Permission,
decisions that she
permission.
made, forgiveness for the decisions that she made, love for whatever was happening to her. Who knows what it is that she needs in each individual situation? But rather than going back and looking through the eyes of your inner, like your child, you go back as you now and provide what needs to be provided so that you can kind of shift the way that that memory is carried in your body and in your subconscious.
Yeah, so good. Um, One thing I want to touch on too is you mentioned the words cleansing breath. So
Mm-hmm.
if you can put context around that, I would love to hear how you describe and kind of like what is a cleansing breath.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, I mean, breathing, right, is like our life force. It's so powerful. And so often we just sit in breath. So we're like all day, like in our chest, in and out, like we're kind of hyperventilating all day
Yeah.
rather than taking these like deep focused breaths. So a cleansing breath for me, it's like two things, right? There's like the actual physical part of it, like breathe deeply in through your nose. I mean, I'm not a breathwork facilitator. I don't know these things exactly. I'm just telling you from experience. So I will preface with that. But I live with a breathwork facilitator. I don't know if that means anything. I always hear her breathing.
Shout out
But
Erin.
yeah, I like to breathe in for 4 seconds through my nose, hold for 4 seconds at the top, and then breathe out, like exhale. Try to exhale for 8 seconds, right? So
Mhm.
that it's a longer exhale and we are slowing down our breath. And that's really the pattern that I like to follow. Another one is like 4 seconds in, hold for 4 seconds, exhale 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, which would be like square breathing, right? So we're like in, hold, out, hold, and repeat. Um, Part of why I like to call it cleansing is so that, I mean, first of all, we want to visualize our bodies being cleansed.
Which I think is so beautiful. That's why I was like, I
Visualization.
want you to describe this because just using cleansing in front of breath is like, I can feel that. Like, I can visually see myself having the, I felt was like stress, right? So it's like stress.
Right.
What is that kind of like cascade of like release that I can
Yeah.
get, you know?
Yes. I mean, because really, if we just say take a deep breath, you might be like, it
Yeah.
could be anything. And that's not what we want to do right now, right? We want to take a cleansing breath. And what I like to visualize is like breathing in, like light, positive energy, whatever it like love, right? Breathing that in. And sometimes it might feel helpful to like, okay, now breathe out all that's not serving you, right? So you're breathing in all that you want to bring in and cleansing what is no longer serving you out of your body. Or something that I've actually been preferring recently is breathing in the positive energy, the healing energy. And as we exhale, imagining it expand, right? Because there's this feeling of expansion when we exhale. So you can imagine it then it was breathed in or inhaled in. And then as you breathe out and exhale, it goes all the way through your body. And on the
Mhm.
next breath, you can breathe more in. And as you exhale, maybe it expands outside of you, right? And you can imagine yourself sending that energy, out. So I think that there are several ways to think about it, and it's what you need in each specific moment. Like if
Yeah.
you feel like you have a lot of pent up like energy that's stressful and like swirling around inside you, maybe you want to breathe out the negativity right then. Otherwise, you might just want to expand,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
positivity.
Yeah, and I love just the visuals. I'm a visual kind of like if I can picture it and have someone describe it, it like helps me probably maximize, what is a cleansing breath for myself. But that was beautiful. Um, okay, one thing I also want you to kind of share with us is, I've noticed as I've, been part of now your community and things like that of, you do a really good job of creating like sacred time in the morning. And I think as people are having potentially new morning routines and they're like maybe not sure of like, how to get into their day, things are a little like less consistent. That in itself makes the brain feel less safe. Is there any kinds of tips or value points you can give regarding like how you conduct your morning rituals and your routines and how that does translate for you into like I'm ready for my day type of a thing?
Yeah, for sure. That's such a good point that everyone's kind of got a new opportunity for setting a new routine into
Yeah.
their lives. And I will say, number one, like I said before, is give yourself grace. So when it is not perfect, you don't just say, yeah, this isn't for me. I can't do it. Like
Yeah.
I most mornings try to post something on my Instagram story just to show consistency, right? Of like I'm showing up with my journal, with my cards,
I
with
love
my me
it.
time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm doing that me time for an hour. Sometimes it's like 3 minutes. I'm like, pull one card, write one sentence, and I'm done. Right. So just know that even the people that you like, I'm going to teach you about morning rituals and routines, not perfect here. Right. So you are allowed to not be perfect with that as well. Um, I started this while I was teaching. So I was working a full-time job and getting up before work to do all of this. And I realized, like, oh my gosh, this makes my day so much easier and so much better. Um, so I think that really the important thing is to structure it in the way that works best for you. And for me, that's changed over the years. When I was first getting started with it, I was in consumption mode a lot. So I was taking a lot more information in, which was just really important for me at that time because I was learning. So my morning usually started with, I try to have like a big glass of water before my coffee, which I realize is really important. You could probably agree with that. And then make my coffee and go sit down with, a book, right? A personal development book, something that's going to like teach you something, read for however long you want to read. I'm not even going to give time limits on this because I want you all to just decide on your own, right? Meditation is a really great practice to have involved. I fall in and out of this. It's so easy to just be like, oh, I'll do it later and then not do it for 2 weeks. So I understand the struggle when it comes to that. But the more often that you can do it, and whenever I do start my day with some sort of like meditative activity, I'm so much more clear headed throughout. So, like I said before, YouTube has a bunch, like podcasts have guided meditations. I know I have several on mine. But if you're just looking for, guided meditation versus just putting on meditation music and trying to like do it yourself, I think just searching guided meditations on YouTube is a really, really
Oh,
great place to
YouTube.
start. And you can
YouTube all
get
the
them from
way.
like, yeah, you can get them from like 5 minutes to however long you want them. So even
Right,
if you're
right.
like on a time limit, just like type in the amount of time you want it for, and that works out really well. Um, so for me, the other things that I like to do is card pulls. So I have like, it's funny, that's what my thing has been propped up on. I have like a million and one like angel card, like tarot card decks. And I like that. I'm just, I'm spiritual and I'm into that. So I like to do different readings, but at the same time, if I'm having trouble thinking about what I'm going to journal on, it makes it a lot easier if I just say, okay, what do I need to think about today? Pull a card, and then I'm like, okay, this is what needs to come out, right? Because I think to me, journaling is one of the most important parts of my personal practice and daily practice. It is the one thing that I will usually like not skip. I will try my hardest not to skip that. And if I didn't get to it in the morning, like I'll always come back to kind of write something to myself later in the day. Because once again, that's where we're building that connection with ourselves, right? That's where we're building that trust. And so one of the main questions I get from people on journaling is like, I don't know what to write about.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally get that because that's where I was for years. I was like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to say to myself in here. Like, am I just supposed to write like it's a diary? Like, well, today I did this and
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes, sure, like if I go on like a date and I'm like, I want to write about this date, I write about it to myself, right? Or if it's something that's just on my mind, stressing me out, I let it out. Um, if it's just a thought that's been brewing, start writing. What I notice is that as we write it on paper, it's like we're saying it, right? And then it clears out space for, oh, whatever was underneath it is going to start to come through to
Mm-hmm.
you. And one thing, my journal's right here, that's why I keep looking in this direction. One thing I like to do and make sure I do with my journal is remind myself that there is not another soul on this planet who is going to read this. this is mine and this is the one place that I can be 100% honest with myself, because sometimes even in my head I'm not honest with myself at all times, right? Like our
Mm,
brains are really smart. They try to reframe things really quickly or
totally.
avoid things
Yeah.
or not look at things that make us feel shameful
Yeah.
or, guilty or things like that. So that is the place where I let that out. And then sometimes when you write those things down, you're like, oh, it takes away some of, the power that it holds. So um, if you're feeling shame or anxiety or fear right now, like being honest about it with yourself will help you, number one, uncover the next layers that need to be uncovered. And then number two, take away the power from some of those feelings so that you can move through them, which was, our plan all
Yeah.
along. And
Those are
also,
such
it's a good
valuable
place.
tips, though, to be like, you know, no one's going to read this. Like, with that perspective, like, no one's going to read this. I can be 100% honest and I don't have
Mm-hmm.
to worry about, like you said, like, for the people that are very intellectual, they're like, oh no, I'm going to just like subconsciously like start changing the language.
Yeah.
And
And
before
I
you know
used
it,
to
you're like,
do that. Like,
I feel
I
worse
noticed,
still, So that's
right?
huge. I think that's huge. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have not heard that yet before when it comes to journaling. So that's like a very valuable topic or piece of
Yeah.
content. Yeah.
I think it was because I really realized, like, noticed myself doing that. Sometimes I would
Mm.
like read back over what I wrote. I'm like, God, I'm not even telling myself what I feel. Like, this
Yeah.
is crazy. Like, it's one thing if I'm not going to tell like my coach the truth, right? Which I already should be doing. But
Yeah.
then it's like when you need to acknowledge those deep, dark things. And if you want, you're allowed to burn your journal afterwards. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, if you're really like, oh my God, no one can ever see this, then get rid of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
but just let it come out of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. Okay. Well, I would love for you to finish us off with maybe more cleansing breaths or however you feel is aligned right now with what we kind of shared as to like allow people to exit this video feeling more grounded, more secure, more safe and
Mm-hmm.
loved.
Yes, yeah. So I think that we should definitely just end it off with some more breaths. For me, do what feels comfortable for you. Recently, I've been feeling so good with my hand over my heart. I don't know if there's something with my heart chakra going on, but it's just always been wanting that like love and comfort recently. So if you can put your hand on your heart or on your belly, or if you want to have your palms facing the sky, whatever feels right to you. And we can close our eyes and we're going to, let's see, we'll we will breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, and exhale for eight. And as you're breathing in, I really want you to envision all of the light and love coming in. And as you exhale, I want you to imagine it expanding. Okay. So on our first exhale, you're going to imagine it expanding throughout your body. And in our second and third exhales, I want you to imagine it expanding outside of your body and then across the globe and spreading to everyone who needs it now. Okay. So you can start that deep inhale and hold. Exhale. Good. And we can inhale that positive light again. Hold and exhale. And one more time, bringing that energy in, holding it in, and exhale and expand that light across the globe. Very good. And I think beyond this, just going on, if you feel like, ooh, I need more of those, do more of those, right? That's so simple to do on your own and continue to do and teach to your mom who's freaking out or anything like that. It's a really great activity to do together, even with kids, with anyone who you are, locked in with this week and things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lily. As you guys can tell, her energy literally goes through the screen. I feel so calm just by listening to your voice and having you coach us through all of this. So, thank you so much for spending your time with us this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. This was amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I will be in touch with everything else, though, okay?
Awesome.
Okay,
Okay,
have a
thanks,
great day,
Alyssa.
everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye, guys.
Bye.